How would you define youth homelessness? Who are they? Where do they sleep? Did you know that from 2006 to 2013, in just a 5-year period, the number of homeless youth rose from 1 in 50 to only 1 in 30? Nationwide, there are more than 1.5 million homeless youth each year. Today, we explore youth homelessness right here in Maryland, and we'll share what you can do to help. So grab your pen and paper. Please take a note.
If I got to go to college, oh my goodness, I like discovering new things. You get to see what works for you and what doesn't. That helps you evolve as a person. You get to make like a supernova of skill or talent or whatever it is. I've always wanted to go to college. I just feel like that's my destiny. My name is Queen, and I am your dividend.
Hello and welcome to the Clarion Call Show. I'm Janice Hatcher-Liggins, your host. Every night in America, thousands of youth are living in cars, vacant buildings, or couch surfing with family or friends. What is youth homelessness? Well, today we'll hear what it is, where it is, why it is, and what is being done about it. Joining me to bring subject matter expertise to the discussion is Ms. Renee Ansel-Pope, Assistant Director, Community Services Division at the Prince George's County Department of Social Services. Also is Ms. Denise Ross, Supervisor for Homeless Education Office, Prince George's County Public Schools. And we have Ms. Stacy Reed-Swain, Assistant Director, Child, Adult, and Family Services at the Prince George's County Department of Social Services. Welcome, ladies, each of you, welcome to the show. This is a dynamic topic that we're talking about, and I'm so thankful to be able to have you here to join us. So why don't we start with each of you. I introduced you by name, but tell us just real briefly what it is you do, your role.
So my name is Renee Ansel-Pope, and I'm the Assistant Director for Community Services Division with the Department of Social Services. And under that particular division falls all of the housing and homeless services in Prince George's County. And over the last 4 years, the build out of a system of care in partnership with a number of organizations across the county to respond to the issues of homeless and unaccompanied youth in our community.
Very good, very good.
Hi, my name is Denise Ross, and as the Supervisor for the Homeless Education Office for Prince George's County Public Schools, my main role is to ensure that all staff members are aware of the educational rights, the federal guidelines, which is the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, and that act protects the educational rights of students. And the primary goal is to eliminate any barriers to the identification of homeless students, the enrollment, retention, and even most important, academic success.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
Yes, hi. Again, Stacy Reed-Swain, Assistant Director for Child, Adult, and Family Services. And within my division, I am responsible, I serve as the Administrator for Child Protective Services, Foster Care and Adoption, Adult Services, in addition to Policy, Practice, and Ready by 21, which serves our older youth that are in foster care and independent living programs.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're talking about youth homelessness, and who are unaccompanied youth? What is the term that you use for it? We say youth homelessness. You have, I know there's a term you use for unaccompanied. Tell us what it is. What is it that you're working with here?
So homeless young people has a broader definition, and I'm going to let Denise talk about how that's reflected in the school system and what the numbers are and what the McKinney-Vento law uses as its definition. But unaccompanied youth are those young people And in Prince George's County, we have defined that framework from 13 to 24, who find themselves in a situation of housing instability, they're couch surfing or house hopping or living on the streets, who do not have a connected adult in their life that is helping them through their crisis.
And I know nationwide there's been a rise in youth homelessness. And I know also that Prince George's County has already done a count before of how many people we have. How many homeless youth or unaccompanied youth would you say in your first count?
So we did our first count in 2011, and in that count, which spanned a 2-week period, we identified 185 distinct young people between the ages of 13 and 24 who met the definition of unaccompanied. In 2012, that number was 149, and in 2013, that number was 147.
Wow.
And in 2015, if I can interject, that number was over 200.
So it's going up.
It's going up.
My goodness. My goodness. And I know that in some of the previous counts I saw some stats that indicated some of them had children.
Yes. About 35% of that population are actually parenting young people. So
wow, that
these
is
are young children having young children.
Very critical, very critical. So are there signs I know we talked about sometimes it could be sofa surfing or living in cars. How do we know? If you see someone, how do you know they're homeless? Are there any signs or indicators that someone could pick up on?
Well, more often than not, when you talk about that particular age group, your high school age group, more often than not, they won't self-report.
Right.
Unless they've established trust, most often that trust is established with the professional school counselor or the assistant principal at the school. But some of the signs from the educational standpoint, if you have a young person who's been coming to school on a regular basis and now you're noticing attendance problems, either coming to school frequently late or missing days or frequently indicating that they're hungry, disheveled, not having all of their supplies. If you're asking them where they live and they say, well, we moved and I don't know the address, those are some of the signs that you can look for.
Okay. So tell me about the stressors that can lead people or provoke people into homelessness. What are some of those stressors?
Some of the referrals that we receive are from families that are experiencing issues with respect to mental health diseases as well as substance abuse, and those referrals are brought to our attention. So we work with the families who are in need of services to deal with those type of issues.
And I know that rejection, sometimes families will reject the youth because of lifestyle, alternate lifestyle. Sometimes it's because they were in a gang and they came out, they can't get back in. How have you seen, even in the mental health situation, how have you seen rejection? How much have you seen that could be attributed to a rejection? It's seen a lot in terms of youth who are seeking housing because their families have rejected them based on their choice to live a certain life, an alternative lifestyle, as you stated. And so those referrals do come to us, and we in turn refer them to our CSD, our Community Services Division with respect to seeking out support for those youth who cannot remain at home and they're at risk of homelessness based on their alternative lifestyle. Do you counsel the youth on how to help or how to work through that rejection?
Yes, if the youth comes to our attention through a specific program, we do offer therapeutic services for the youth as well as the family to prevent the youth from coming into our care in terms of our foster care system.
And what about housing? I know that in some cases the rents, the housing affordability may be an issue. I saw one graphic, actually, one article that talked about rents going up while incomes are going down. So and some homeless youth are even working, homeless but working. How does that factor in?
So you're right. Poverty is definitely a stressor. The ability to afford rents in the metropolitan region is a factor. Families who have limited income in terms of the types of jobs that they have and their ability to put those 2 and 3 and 4 jobs together to be able to afford the rent is certainly a stressor. And that does impact housing stability, overcrowding, folks doubling up with other family members to try
Right.
and make ends meet, and sometimes those stressors push out in ways that have a negative impact on young people.
Good. What impact does housing instability have? How do homeless youth receive education? Stay with us.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. How do homeless youth receive education? And how does housing stability work? Joining us to address this portion of the segment is Ms. Denise Ross, Supervisor, County Homeless Education Office, Jama Simmons, resident in the Prince George's County Youth Development Program, Robert Bell, Program Manager at Promise Place Youth Shelter, and we have Ms. Renee Ansor-Pope, Assistant Director, Community Services Division. Welcome everyone to this segment of the show. And there's a lot to cover, but we want to focus on just two questions or two topics in this segment. And that's going to be the housing stability as well as youth education, homeless youth education. Youth education's easy, but how do you educate a homeless youth? So if we can start with you, Denise. We know that there are 1.2 million school children who are lacking in a state of homelessness, we'll say it that way. And then millions more of young adults who are homeless and in the streets. So how does Prince George's County, what is the approach Prince George's County uses when it comes to homeless youth getting education?
Okay. So I use a formula, and that formula is identification plus enrollment plus academic support equals success, and that's a formula personal to me. So once they're identified, they're immediately enrolled, and each school has 2 school-based homeless liaisons, a record secretary and the counselor. The counselor is the one that sits down with them just as we're talking and establishes a rapport and assesses their needs. The goal of the McKinney-Vento federal guideline is educational stability. So our goal is to keep these young people in the schools they were in prior to becoming displaced, regardless of whether they're in the street, abandoned home, shelter, or doubled up. Along with that, we provide transportation, Prince George's County Public School bus, to and from the school they were in prior to becoming displaced. If we don't have a bus, we use Smart Trip cards.
Oh, nice.
Okay? And once we get them in, we ensure they get free breakfast, free lunch. We provide gift certificates for uniforms. We provide backpacks, school supplies, and personal hygiene kits. So we try to give them, equip them with what they need to want to attend school and to feel comfortable going to school.
And I know that's important because in a lot of cases, their friends don't know that they're homeless. They don't really want their friends to know that they're homeless, and to be able to get that transportation, clothing as well. That's awesome.
Uniforms.
That's awesome. And they are homeless, still trying to do homework.
Yes. And oftentimes, I'm glad you brought that up, we provide academic support. We partner with contractors that provide academic tutorial services, and we actually have provided academic support or tutoring at shelters, at McDonald's and libraries. We kind of meet them where we can to ensure that that academic opportunity for success continues in spite of being displaced.
And I know there's coordination also with social services for housing, because they still have to have somewhere to sleep and somewhere to, so how does that work? You want to take that, Renee?
So in Prince George's County, we have a number of adult and family shelters, and then we have begun to build out, since we started our youth count 2011, a system of care specifically for young people who are unaccompanied, so young people who are without adult support. And so there are 2 emergency shelters for young people in Prince George's County, and 2 transitional programs like the youth development program that Jamal is engaged in, where we work with young people who have no other caring adult connected to them at the time that we meet them. To make sure that they have a safe place to lay their head, and then liaison with the school system to make sure we wrap all of the services around them that they need to succeed.
Nice. Jamal, can you tell us a little bit about your story, your background, because at one point you were homeless.
Right.
So tell us what prompted that, and what was your experience?
How it started, me leaving school, making the wrong decisions in life.
How old were you?
I was about 18. Making the wrong decisions in life, hanging with the wrong crowd, not wanting to listen to anybody, what anybody had to say. Also, it was just me do the right thing, or I had to be on the streets.
How long were you homeless?
I was living from friends' house to house for about 2 months. Until I realized that I needed to get myself together.
But you were fortunate that at least you found friends that you could stay with.
Yes.
Because I know that sometimes it's cars or abandoned buildings or that some of the youth do end up with. So what caused you to make the turnaround into making better choices?
Just me living with friends and their family, it wasn't a good feeling, you know. Just having the feeling that I had that friend to be able to go over their house, eat, sleep, have bathing clothes, wash clean clothes. It wasn't a good feeling, and I wasn't raised that way.
Okay.
It was just I had made bad decisions in life.
Very good. And then I know, Robert, you are with Promise Place, which is an emergency shelter in the county. So tell us how that worked. What kind of youth come into Promise Place, and what services?
Well, Promise Place is a emergency shelter for youth. We cover ages 12 to 24. Our referrals come through a hotline. We can facilitate up to 20 youth at one time, 10 boys, 10 girls. It's a co-ed facility. The type of services we provide is, upon arrival, the first thing that we do is provide them a safe place to stay. Then we have a team of case managers who are skilled at doing needs assessments to hone in on where the needs are. And once we get a comprehensive needs assessment, then we begin to link them with the proper resources to connect them to get the things they need so that they can be successful. One of the things we do is find out what they need in terms of personal items, and in terms of, and then we have mental health therapy. We have a therapist on site that does the therapeutic services. And then education, we connected with the homeless education program, Ms. Ross, who's been very instrumental in helping us get our kids not only into school, but transported to school. Because one of the barriers was, if we have a kid that was going to school in Oxon Hill, who's now at our location in Capitol Heights, there becomes a transportation issue. So those are some of the services that we're able to provide at Promise Place.
Very good. Well-coordinated efforts on everybody's part. So what is Prince George's County doing to overcome the rising trend in youth homelessness? That's next.
It was 17 years ago, when I decided to become a mentor, that I was assigned to Christina. When she was in the first grade, she was a shy little girl, not able to smile much.
Elaine showed there were people out there to help me and guide me through life. When Elaine let me read her diary, I didn't even realize how important I was to her. And now that I'm mentoring, I feel that importance, and I can spread those same values to the girls I mentor.
Be someone who matters to someone who matters.
So how is Prince George's County addressing youth homelessness? What has been done and what's next? And what can you do? Joining us for this discussion is Renee Ensor-Pope, Assistant Director for Community Services Division, Stacy Reed-Swain, Assistant Director, Child, Adult, and Family Services, as well as Denise Ross, Supervisor, Homeless Education Office. Welcome again, ladies, to the show. So YouthREACH is what we're going to talk about in this segment. And what is YouthREACH? That's a term that's used now. What does it mean? What is it for?
So YouthREACH is a pilot that was a result of state legislation that is engaging the state in developing a survey system or a counting system that will allow them to begin to identify young people who fit the definition of homeless and unaccompanied, and to begin to determine what needs they present with and what systems of care might need to look like if we are to truly develop a system that is youth-centric, youth-supportive, as opposed to an adult system that's been custom or twisted or tooled to meet what we perceive to be youth needs. So it engages youth voice in helping us to develop a response system for them and their needs.
Very good, very good. So when there's a YouthREACH Maryland, and there's also a YouthREACH Prince George's, and I understand that Maryland YouthREACH Prince George's is part of the Maryland program, but Prince George's County started in 2011, and Maryland used that as a model?
Yes, so Prince George's County's been doing the count since 2011. We actually adopted a basic survey that was done in Baltimore City in 2009. We got a group of youth leaders around the table, talked about the kinds of information that we felt like we needed from young people to be able to decide what it is we needed to develop. We wanted to gather the data first. So in 2011, 2012, and in 2013, we had a series of conversations with young people about their housing instability and their circumstances, the traumas that they had been exposed to, whether it was violence or, as you alluded to earlier in the presentation, gang interaction or gender minority alternative lifestyle, whether it was just family stressors related to divorce or death, whether it was poverty, whether it was affordable housing challenges. So talking about all of those stressors that took young people to a place where they had fallen through all the support systems that the family network could offer. They had fallen through all the support networks that the community could offer, and they had followed through all of the support networks that programs like the school system and the Department of Social Services and a myriad of other youth providers, foster care, and child welfare, had fallen through all of those systems and now found themselves to be devoid of a caring adult and living on the street. So the question was, how do we help you? And we need your voice in that process. And so Prince George's had experience with it and informed some of the conversation around the development of YouthREACH Maryland, which is now the state's attempt to take what has happened anecdotally at different local jurisdictional levels and said we need to have this conversation on a bigger platform so that we can look at all children in the state of Maryland, regardless of where they come from.
So I know that coming up now, there's part of this YouthREACH is actually reaching those youth who do come under the definition of unaccompanied. And there's going to be a count, an enumeration process coming up later this month, and you'll be needing volunteers to help with that. So tell me about that. What kind of volunteers, what will they be doing, and what is the purpose of this count?
So there are two levels of volunteers. The first is the team leaders for the outreach teams, and there is both an adult partner in that outreach effort that comes from our youth organizations, and then there is a youth ambassador that has been identified, like Jamal, who you met in segment 2, who are stepping up and partnering with the adult to go out and have conversations with young people around their circumstances in hopes of gathering the information we need to take it to the state. So now what we need then are those individuals who are willing to step up and actually join those teams during that 7-day process from about 3 p.m. till about 11 p.m. across those 7 days to engage young people wherever they are. We need about 50 volunteers, 18 and up, who are interested in this work, who would like to participate in changing the circumstances of young people and in making sure that the voice of young people is embedded in work that we do.
Very good, very good. So do you have an idea how many volunteers you may need? I mean, 10 or 100? Do you have any?
I think in this work you can never have too many volunteers.
Okay, agreed.
So I don't want to eliminate or cause anybody to think that there's not a place for them and their work and their heart in this work if they can't participate in the count. There's always a place in this work for volunteers. So it's a community issue, and it requires a community response. So every person is welcome in the work, and there will be a place for them. For the count itself, we've determined we probably need about 50 because it will depend on schedules. Not everybody's going to be able to work 8 hours a day, 7 days for that week. There are professionals and young people who are in college and young people who are working. And so to be able to mix and match and have enough on any given day, we've talked about maybe 50 being that number. That's just the street piece. There'll be an in-shelter count where young people are already connected to services, are being counted by their service providers, by those organizations that are interacting with young people. For example, in foster care youth who are on runaway, and connecting to them and bringing them back and having those conversations about what led them to that circumstance.
So I know there will be magnet locations. What is that all about for the count? What is a magnet location?
So a magnet event is an opportunity where you have a social circumstance that you've created for the benefit of young people and brings them to the conversation. It could be something as simple as a pizza party, but who doesn't like to eat, right? Or something as complicated as having a after-school enrichment program at a recreational facility, for example, or something that brings, or a conversation inside of a student advisory board at the community college, where not all young people are service connected.
Sure.
In fact, 22% of the young people in Prince George's County that border the district are not connected to any service at all. So it's not just about identifying the young people that are service connected, that know to ask for help or that we know of in our practice, but it's also identifying young people who do not define themselves as homeless, I think as Jamal said. They do not define themselves as in need of services, and if they did, they wouldn't know what services to ask for. How do we find them as well? And beginning to reach those young people in that conversation.
Very good. I am, did you have something else you wanted to add?
So I was just going to say, I was going to kind of piggyback on that. Once those magnet events are established, then what I will do is inform students within Prince George's County Public Schools, specifically those students that are high school age, of those magnet events, because oftentimes unaccompanied homeless youth will tell their friends, but maybe no one else, and that way they can make them aware of those events, and we can probably reach out, which as it's called, YouthREACH, reach out and pull in some individuals who can get resources.
So the whole idea is to identify those homeless youth, whether they identify themselves as that or not, wherever they are in the county. Awesome, awesome.
Also, just to add with respect to, as Renee mentioned with the child welfare side, our youth who are in out-of-home placement would also be included in the count if they're on runaway status. So it's another mechanism for which we can track youth who may, who aren't in their current placement.
Very good. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I have enjoyed this whole discussion. We'll have to do it again. So thank you.
Thank you.
As a member of the Homeless Youth Work Group of Prince George's County, I've dedicated this show to the topic of youth homelessness because it is critical that you know about it. It is critical that you know about the challenge and that you get involved in the upcoming Homeless Youth Count, September 28th to October 4th. Prince George's County will conduct this count to identify the number of unaccompanied youth and young adults who do not have a fixed, stable, permanent place to call home. Get involved. If you're homeless, take the survey. To volunteer or take the survey, contact Ross Palagy, Prince George's County Homeless Youth Coordinator at 301-909-6367, or you can email at ross.pologe@maryland.gov. That's it for now, and we hope you enjoyed this show. Please join us next time, won't you, for the Clarion Call. Until then, I'm Janice Liggins. Blessings to you.